Welcome to My Business Matters, the Michigan Chamber podcast.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Sara Wurfel, Chief Communications and Marketing Officer for the Michigan Chamber, and we are here with part 2 of our talent recruitment, retention, and workforce development session, and we have 3 amazing resources with us today. Joe Bamberger, the founder and managing partner of Emerge, a consulting firm focused on helping employers build talent pipelines. Ryan Hundt, the CEO of the Michigan Works Agency, an organization dedicated to providing support and services to both job providers and job seekers. And Julie Mann, the Chief Human Resources Officer for Neogen, an advanced global sciences company producing solutions and services to ensure food and animal safety right here in our backyard. So we got a lot of ground to cover again, and we ran out of time on that first episode, so thanks for coming back again. And let's jump in, and we wanted to talk about so many opportunities and challenges out right there, the way the workforce is challenging, what businesses are facing with talent everywhere, again, regardless of industry, location, size. It's just a pervasive issue, and we know that it's changing fast. So with that, what are some of the resources and programs out there that you guys have tapped or that you're part of? And I'm pretty excited about a few of these that I know that you guys are going to dive into. So I guess with that, Joe, we'll start with you. There's something that you have started called Emerge Skilled. Can you tell us a little about it and how it works?
No, happy to. Yeah, so Emerge Skilled is a technology platform that we developed that is specifically designed to connect students with career exploration and job opportunities. So we partner with school districts, community colleges, trade schools, some colleges and universities to get students on board our platform to have them match with opportunities. And the unique piece to it is it operates under the assumption that most students are not very proactive in their own job search. And so it allows, the system creates matches between employers and opportunities and students based on education background, location, industry preferences, things like that. And it allows employers to proactively reach out to students. So that way students don't need to be proactive, don't need to apply to positions. They can just be responsive and reactive to the employers that are reaching out to them. It's obviously a completely digital platform, which that generation obviously wants to be as digital as possible. They have their phone on them 24/7, and it's just a way for them to engage with employers without having to walk in their door or navigate through the long bullet-pointed job descriptions that you see out on job boards, and allows employers to meet them and promote their employer brand in an atmosphere that they're comfortable with.
Available statewide?
Statewide.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to a couple of those elements in a bit. But Ryan, wanted to switch gears and move over to you, too. You guys obviously are on the ground. Maybe a little bit more about Michigan Works, what you do, how you do it, and then in particular going pro. I know from the seat at the Michigan Chamber, that is a program that super awesome when it started. The demand just keeps skyrocketing. The program keeps expanding and adapting, but there's still far more demand than there is actual available resources. So if you could talk a little bit about that too.
Absolutely, Sarah. Thanks again for having us on to talk more about workforce and talent today. And of course, we appreciate the Chamber's continuous support for programs like the Going Pro Talent Fund. It's been a key resource for close to a decade now in Michigan as an innovative way for companies to tap into reimbursement funding for training that they have, for short-term in-demand training, and also for apprenticeship funding as well. The Going Pro Talent Fund historically has served tens of thousands of workers across the state. Thousands of companies have been able to access that program as well. 90% of the funds that have been dispersed from the Going Pro Talent Fund for close to the past decade have been for small businesses as well, which is a huge resource for them because, as we know, training costs continue to tick up, and we just want to make sure that as we are trying to be as competitive as possible in a global economy, a well-educated and well-skilled workforce is a huge part of that equation. And so programs like the Going Pro Talent Fund do make a very significant difference. We did just finish up the first round of the Going Pro Talent Fund funding cycle for this program year that wrapped up just a few weeks ago, and the award announcements came out from Governor Whitmer's office earlier this month with $47 million distributed in grant funding for the Going Pro Talent Fund for this program year. There were $77 million that were requested for the funding. And so what we are seeing out in the field where the Michigan Works offices are playing a key role in continuing to serve as the front door for accessing resources like the Going Pro Talent Fund and many other programs. But what we're seeing is that program in particular is always oversubscribed. There's always way more demand for the dollars than are available. And so alongside the Michigan Chamber, we will continue to advocate for additional funding to help meet the overall demand that is out there for short-term skills and credentials training and apprenticeship funding statewide.
Oh, that's great, and it has been a priority, and it's going to be an ongoing priority that just got wrapped up for us for our 2023-24 legislative priorities, and hearing from our members and businesses all across the state, that is definitely at the top of the list for sure. Julie, from your standpoint as an employer working on this talent development conundrum overall, what do you see has been the most helpful resource or tool that you've used, or what are you doing on your own?
Well, I think the answer is there's not a single resource, right? I mean, we all have to be very creative and resourceful, right? So, I mean, we have to work with Capital Area Mission Works. We have to work with Michigan Manufacturing Association. We have to work with every single pocket we can find to try to tap into that talent. And, you can't rely, from a talent acquisition, HR standpoint of view, we call it a sourcing strategy, right? So we have very complex sourcing strategies that by role reach into different pockets to try to find those people and work with different partners to do talent development. I think one of the big important things that, Ryan said was that it is a huge cost to an organization and it's a huge demand for an organization. Employees coming to companies now are starting to interview for how are you developing people more so than, and what is your purpose of your company? More so than even on the compensation and benefit realms. So as an employer, you have to have a good answer. And that can make or break whether or not you get a candidate. So you have to have these sourcing strategies in place and sourcing partners, as we're here with today, to be able to make that happen.
Okay. Talking about that too, like from what she's talking about, Joe, what have you seen from the employers who are signing up to use the platform and the schools? Like, what's the general reaction, and how are finding people like the ease of use? Like, basically, how does it work?
Yeah, and so I think the biggest challenge that we encounter with the platform really is, like any technology, it's adoption, right? It's easy to throw a job out there, build a profile, and then forget about it, right? And any sourcing strategy is only as successful as the amount of time that you can put into it, right? And so if a company partners with us on the technology side, if a school partners with us and enrolls their students, right, if that's the only step they do, right, like anything else, they're not going to be successful in it. But if you invest the time, if you commit to utilizing our technology or any other technology or sourcing strategy that you're using, right, that's where you'll find success. And we kind of say, recruiting is a sales profession, right? And we work with small businesses, around the state and beyond that, they'll throw a sign out in front, they'll throw an ad up on a job board, and they'll complain that no one wants to work, right? And if your sales team did that to acquire business, right, if they just threw a sign out that says we're selling a product and we threw an ad out online, right, is that salesperson doing their job? And the answer is obviously no, right? And if you treat recruiting like a sales department, you'll find success, right? It's the adoption of whatever sourcing strategies you're utilizing, right? Committing to those, investing the time necessary they need to be successful.
Again, so many questions to try and list, but trying to get through a lot of ground that we have. So switching back to Ryan and the various programs and resources that you have. For with Going Pro, what would you say to an employer who's looking at it and going, oh, it's a state program, like there's so much paperwork or red tape, like how do I don't have the time to do that. Like I'm too busy trying to find people. What would you tell them?
First and foremost, what I would say is, again, on average, I mentioned this in the last segment that we had last week, on average, the Michigan Works agencies, the 16 of them around the state, serve about 32,000 employers each year. They really are there to serve as an extension of a company's human resources function. Their specialty is in identifying programs and resources that are going to lower the cost of training, lower the cost of recruitment and retention, and also help those companies maximize the opportunities that they may have available in any of those areas. So for companies that are concerned about the paperwork I would say that the state's Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity has done a tremendous job over the past year of listening to the business community and helping to streamline the application process this time around. And that's helped us process more applications and also request additional funding for the Going Pro Talent Fund. So again, if a company is looking at it as this onerous process that's going to involve a ton of paperwork, it is a very customer-friendly program. And if there are any questions that a company may have on what is required to submit an application, the Michigan Works agency is again serving as that front door resource for workforce development services for both job seekers and employers. They will help a company walk through every step of the application in order for them to be successful and competitive once they do hit that submit button.
Okay, fantastic.
Well, and I will say, as the employer voice around the table, we've always been very active in Going Pro. And I mean, if I even think back 5 years ago, I mean, just for anybody who's listening to it, 5 years ago, it was horrible. Like you had to go hire somebody to get through the process. I mean, it was really, really just hard. And it's not. And so, I mean, from an employer appreciation standpoint of view, we do appreciate the listening there, because it was something that you would pause and you'd go, can I do this? Do I have a staff member available? And you don't have to do that anymore. So for employers listening, who've maybe had experience years back where it was challenging, they really have listened well. So we appreciate it.
Look at there, your walking testimonial right here,
Love
right
it.
now.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to cut that part and
Move on.
tweet that out.
Yeah.
Well, kind of like piggybacking on that too, one of the things that we talked about last episode when we were first touching base was this like crazy new dynamic, which isn't so crazy when you think about it, right? That pretty much like 81% of the jobs in less than 5 years aren't going to require a 4-year degree. That doesn't mean that they're not going to require training. So how do you see both of these resources and these programs that you're offering help kind of help employers and job seekers adapt to that new reality?
On the last segment, we talked at the end about this new reality we're living in on the skills-based credentials and learning. And that's really what the Going Pro Talent Fund is geared to help address, are some of those short-term training needs to help solve some of the immediate labor market challenges that many employers are facing throughout the state. So again, we feel very strongly alongside the Michigan Chamber that additional investments in those shorter-term training programs that help foster public-private partnerships with employers throughout the state are critically important for us to maintain our competitive edge on not just a regional or national scale, but really on a global scale.
And I think last segment, Julie talked about how much that generation is focused on training and development in their job search. And so one of the key pieces that we focus on our platform is for an employer to sign up for Emerge Skilled, they're required to document their onboarding, training, cross-training, and educational paths for advancement within their company, right? Because we know students care about that. We obviously know educators and schools care about that. So we evaluate that up front with the employers to make sure that they are also invested in utilizing the skills that students already have while further developing them for the workforce.
Okay. We're crazily getting almost out of time again. So I wanted to leave this kind of the last word with each of you, and also tell us where to find everybody for both employers and those future workers, that future workforce, about each of the opportunities that you've talked about. What should they know? Kind of any of your last words, last thoughts that we didn't cover, and how to find you.
They should know that Neogen has 141 open positions across 40 countries, and that they should apply.
I love it. Very nice.
With Emerge Skilled, if any school or business is interested in getting involved, they can check us out at emergeskilled.com or Emerge's general consulting page at emergejobs.com.
Okay.
Any employers or job seekers throughout the state that would like access to their local Michigan Works office can find more information, and also information on the association at michiganworks.org.
All right. And there you have it. There is another part 2 concluded. Check these guys out. A wealth of information and resources. A special thanks again to Julie of Neogen, Joe of Emerge, and Ryan of the Michigan Works Agents Association. Make sure you tune in for our next episode. We've got a lot to cover. Thanks again for our listeners and for being here.